What's up, everybody? Big Herc 916, getting down with Fresh Out, and we have an extraordinary guest with us here today. We have my man Roger, and his story is like any Hollywood movie you ever heard or watched. Roger, how did you come about working for Pablo Escobar?
Well, I was driven down that way. I was hauling pot out of Mexico, and the American DEA had the Mexican federales torture me.
Oh,
And they
shit.
tortured me almost to death one time, and then another time later on they took me out and worked me over with cattle prods, and I got away from them in the jungle, and I knocked one of the federales in the head with a rock. So I was scared to go back to Mexico. So I was only a place left to go was to Colombia, and I met Mr. Pablo Escobar,
Wow.
and they was having trouble with their logistics for getting the cocaine up, and so I was escorted. I'll tell you how I come to it. My contact there in Colombia took me to Envigado, the little village just outside of Medellín, about 10 or 15 miles. And we went up a winding road and came to a gate, and the guys there with the machine guns, and they saw who we were, and they was waiting on us, and they opened the gate, and we drove up through, beautiful little road with the flowers, and it was rough looking, but really nice. And we came to an old house. I guess it was 200 or 300 years old, and stones all out in the yard, and the hitching rails in front. And I guess there was 30 or 40 men out there with their fedoras on. They was waiting to talk to El Jefe. And so me and my escort was ushered right in through all those people, and a beautiful woman, I mean drop dead gorgeous, met us at the door. And how you doing? Said, watch for the hole in the floor. The floor was just waxed beautiful clear. I mean, it had been really a nice place some time ago, but they had left it just like it was with a hole in the floor. I like that. And brought us a cup of tea with that little tiny handle you can't get your finger in. And so in a few minutes she said, the Jefe was ready to see you. So I went in and saw Jorge Ochoa. Yeah, nice looking young man. And behind the desk, he got up, he spoke a little English and shook hands, and we chatted a little bit, and he had 12 telephones on his desk, great big telephones, great big desk. And I said, what's all those telephones? He said, well, now that phone rings, I know who I'm talking to. That was Denver, and this one's Chicago, and that in Seattle.
Wow.
Here's New York. So I got all that, and I like that, the different colored telephones in different cities. And so he asked me what kind of experience I had crossing the U.S. border. I said, I brought over 100 loads of marijuana in, and never lost an ounce. And he said, what kind of planes you got? And I said, I got a turbojet Aero Commander, I got a DC-3, and I got a Beech 18. And he asked what would they haul, and I told him the DC-3 hauled 3 tons. Twin Beech about 1 ton, and the Aero Commander about 500 kilos, but it's twice as fast. And I said, well, just wait just a minute. So he sent the pretty woman next door, and he said, I want you to talk to my compadre. And in come a man dressed in khaki pants, starched and ironed, and plaid shirt on, looked nice as anybody, shook my hand, Mr. Pablo Escobar. And he didn't speak English, but I speak enough Spanish I understood, and we talked a little bit, and he asked me the same questions. And I told him what kind of airplanes I had and what kind of experience I had. And he said, well, we have all the work you can do, and we pay $5,000 a kilo. I said, how much will you put in there? He said, 500 kilos. I kind of got to thinking, that's $2.5 million now. If we put it in that turboprop, I'll be done in 8 hours. That's pretty good wages. I believe I can satisfy you. And so he said, which way do you go? And I said, well, I made a route a long time ago when I was coming out of Mexico. And if I was loading in Veracruz or on the east side, Oaxaca, I would come up through the Gulf of Mexico, now the Gulf of America, and I, 200 or 300 miles out, I'd put it down on the deck, and I'd stay up about 300 or 400 feet. And just after dark, a lot of helicopters come out from New Orleans and that area to supply the oil vessels and take the crew back in the afternoon. So sometimes maybe 20 or 30 helicopters They run about 120 miles an hour, so I'd drop my wheels and my flaps, slow down, and I'd come right in with those helicopters. So they couldn't tell me about it. Then I'd go across Lake Pontchartrain and go out there to St. Timothy Aviation in the land. But my favorite landing spot was on Interstate 10. They spent years and years, I don't know, 20 years trying to make that place across that Mississippi River Bridge. It was a cantilever bridge, and I hear several contractors went broke trying to build that bridge. And the bridge is 5 miles back up, I believe it's Highway 55 where you turn. And there they had big drums with flashing red lights. It was just like the end of a runway. Then you had 5 miles of white concrete and black water and trees on both sides of it. And that was absolutely a dream place.
Wow.
And so I landed there so many times till I wore the place out, and finally sometime they was waiting on me. But I'd go out there, I'd land, and then I'd go somewhere with my plane and drive back there and scrub the tire marks out on the highway before daylight, so nobody would know it.
Wow. So you had a whole system down. I mean, and how well did that work? As far
100%. I never lost a seed.
Wow.
Not a dollar for all those years.
Now, when you hear all the stories about Pablo and you know, you see the different shows, Narcos and stuff, was he as just over the top as they show him on these shows, or was he more of a quiet guy? I mean, was he somebody was very professional? I mean, in your experience dealing with him, was he a person that if you were doing business today, you would be like, this is a good guy to do business with?
He certainly was no maniac. He was just like you and I sitting here talking.
Yeah.
He was just a guy about my size and very, very nice and very polite. And before I don't know, it was after we did a load of two, he put me in a plane with his, and there was two other people. There was a pilot, him and another guy, and we went out to one of his farms. I guess he got a lot of farms, a lot of ranches. And we went out there early in the morning, and so he asked me, did I ride motorcycles? And he had, I guess, half a dozen of them dirt bikes there. And I ride a motorcycle. I'm not much of a motorcycle rider, but I ride a motorcycle. All right, let's go. So I got over, and mine was a good green one, and you take that one. And I pop, button, and the grass is about that deep in front of me. And they was all standing there waiting. And I took off, I'm gonna come around. And there was a ditch there about knee deep and about that wide. And that front field fell in that thing. I went scooting across that grass on my chin.
Oh, man.
He like to fell off of his bike laughing.
Man.
So he had some fun in him. And then we, later on, he had to go round up some cows. I mean, it was just might have been a movie. It was burnt stumps and stuffed grass. We got on some horses, and he handed me like an Uzi. Can you use that? And absolutely, I had never seen one before, I don't reckon.
How much money do you think he was really making at his height? Like when you were doing what I mean, because everybody throws numbers around. What kind of money do you think he was making, like say on a week?
Well, I have no idea, because the CIA was bringing 10-ton loads in at the same time.
Wow.
So
the CIA was also flying drugs for Pablo?
They needed a control tower down there for the planes coming in at night.
Wow.
They was certainly, read the books, The Big White Lie, the CIA and the crack cocaine epidemic. They'd bring it in by the tons. And Clavell, one of the top agents of the CIA, for the DEA, exposed him, and they tried to kill him.
Wow.
So he wrote the book Deep Cover and also the Big White Lie. It's a big white lie, certainly. The government and the CIA developed and put crack cocaine into every city, particularly in the poor sections. In America at one time, how many million people did that kill?
So if they wanted you to work for them, it was great, but if you're doing it on your own, just not controlled by them, then you got to go to jail.
They'll shoot you and kill you.
Wow. And then your connection with Barry Seal, that's an amazing story. Could you go into that, how you met Barry Seal?
Yes, after I was flying cocaine, and I was looking for a place to refuel if I wanted to use a DC-3 where I could bring 3 tons. So I took my wife and family down to Honduras. And we went out, it was just beautiful in the mountains there. And we stayed out a week and looked at some ranches and different places to buy. And then we came back to San Pedro Sula. And our clothes was all muddy, and we'd been in the rivers and the mud, and I had my wife and 2 little children. And so I put the clothes in the laundry, and they said, okay, they'll be ready tomorrow, but they weren't ready. But then the planes were loaded going back to New Orleans from Honduras, 1 a day. So I'd made the reservations for 4. So they said, oh, they'll be ready early in the morning. I think the plane left at 9, let's say. So I told Mari, my wife, and to take the 2 children and go to the airport, and you go ahead. It's easier for me to get on by myself on standby than it is for you. So going up and stay at a hotel there in New Orleans. So I went and got the clothes, and there was a big stack of them. And I got an old raggedy taxi, and I said, hurry, hurry. And I gave him a $100 bill, hurry, hurry. And he just blew the horn faster. Hurry, nothing. So we got to the airport, and there was a brand new 727 taxiing out. And I ran around on the tarmac with all those clothes, and I waved at the pilot. He waved at me. Then I saw Mari's face in the cockpit window back. Then you go,
Yeah.
And the pilot, he smiled and he put on the brakes, and after the front wheel went down, the big jet, and he stuck the ladder out part way. And I started running for the ladder, and he took off again. Like a hitchhiker.
Oh, man.
So by this time, we got a happy crew on the airplane.
Yeah.
So finally he let the thing out, and I got on in the old airplane clap like this. And I went back down about halfway down, and my daughter was sitting there, and there was my vacant seat was there, and a gentleman was by the window, and I thought, I wonder what he is. He looked like he could have been CIA or the governor
Yeah,
or
he
something.
don't fit the look.
He ain't supposed to be here. Whatever
Yeah.
he is, I ain't trusting him. He had clear blue eyes and just an intelligent look. So my daughter was 9 years old. She moved over in the middle, and I sat in the aisle. And we got up, and the wheels come up, click, good thump. And they got up about 5,000 feet, and there was a little click, click. And Miriam said, what was that, Dad? And I said, he just turned on his autopilot. You fly these things, mister? I said, I got a few hours. My name's Barry Seal. How you doing? So I just got out of jail this morning. And I thought, bullshit.
He's like, come on.
You want me to talk?
Yeah.
So we talked, and I think a 2-hour flight to New Orleans, and I didn't trust him a bit.
Yeah.
None. He was telling me about this and that and other. He'd been an airline pilot. I don't know what all he told me. But I liked him, but I didn't trust him. I thought, you are definitely something with the government. We got off that airplane, and there was a flock of people there. There was a dozen or so. There's mama and wife and children hanging on to him and crying and just loving on him. And I thought, that guy telling the truth. He did just get out of prison this morning. So I had Mari to write her address on, and I walked over. I said, Barry, I might have some work for you. And here's our number. Come out to Santa Barbara. So I was out there, and it wasn't a few days. We got in contact, and he flew out. And I had that Aero Commander that's called a 690B Aero Commander. It's a jet engine that turn props. And I said, let's go flying. So we got up about 10,000. He just click, 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 click. He knew what he was doing. He didn't need a checklist or nothing. So we took off. And so I got about 10. I said, show me what you can do. Well, I'm sorry I said that. He could do it. Boy, we went upside down and every which way and twisted around up in the air and back down again. And I said, that's enough. I was about to throw up. I'm no aerobatic pilot. I'm a good pilot, but I can, but I don't like doing it. So then he cut the engines, and we stalled side by side with that thing. Just like that. I've never seen it done except in a championship air show with Bob Hoover, famous. We landed, stopped.
Wow.
On there, right there in Santa Barbara, and I thought, you can fly for me. So I said, this thing needs tanking. He said, well, I know a fella in Mena, Arkansas. Said, I'll get it done. So I gave him $10,000. He flew away in my airplane. So then I flew back to Baton Rouge and stayed in his house 2 or 3 days. And I told him, I says, I'm hauling cocaine for Pablo Escobar and them others, and I'll give you $2,000 a kilo. He said, how much you put in there? I said, $500 a time. That's $1 billion. Said, all right. So, but he wanted a Panther airplane. It's a conversion from Piper Navajo, where they got these powerful engines with Q-tip props that don't make much noise. The CIA used them in Southeast Asia, flying the hump. And so I bought him one of those, and he got another fellow, and they went to flying. So he wouldn't fly until he got his $1 million. He wouldn't go again. Well, I had to wait a couple of weeks before they paid me to the pipeline to come back. Oh, he'd bellyache in a good humor way. Oh, they're never going to pay you, and just bullshit. So with all his belly aching, I was in the store one day and I saw some Stay Free mini pads. I said, all right. So I got a big pack of those feminine napkins, put $1 million in a box, and put that right in there on top of it. Taped it up. Oh, when he opened that up, he laughed. He made a spot on his mantelpiece for those.
Oh, man.
So anyway, Barry would fly just as fast as I would pay him. He wouldn't go until I'd paid him.
Wow. So Barry, he eventually started working for the government, didn't he?
Yeah, of course he did. Well, he was the biggest snitch in the history of the world.
Yeah, because I mean, the movie American Made, with the Tom Cruise movie where they actually put the cameras in the plane and got pictures of the guys on a landing strip. What could you tell us about that whole, I mean, were you still in the picture at that time, or you were kind of out of the picture?
No, I went to prison for 2 years. But whenever Barry was working, another time, a moment with Pablo Escobar, people like to hear about that. I went down there and I said, listen, y'all go in, some of their drug labs got busted in Panama, and the DEA was tearing up. Well, they moved them on down further close to Ecuador. And it was long. Now, I'm telling you what, it was, I had red lights flashing when I was coming in. I was out of fuel. And I said, fellas, I can't go any further south.
Wow.
You got to give me a fuel up on the coast near Cartagena or something. And so I landed at a banana plantation. And as I was filling the airplane up, it was a military base. And they're in the jungle. And a big helicopter landed. And there out stepped Pablo Escobar and a couple of other guys. And he says, introduced me to a guy named Benjamin. Tall, slim. This guy was a pilot, helicopter pilot for him. He said, go with him and he'll show you where to go. So we put 500 kilos in the Aero Commander, and I took off with the Benjamin in the right seat, and we went to a military base in Nicaragua and landed like, ooh. And he introduced me to the generals there, and there were 2 or 3 of them, and they said, you can land here anytime you want to, just radio silence. Don't say a word, just come in. We'll wash the plane, fill it up, go into the restaurant, get what you want.
Wow.
And stay as long as you want to. Just don't say a word, coming or going. So boy, I thought, now we got the ticket. So before, I had flown some of the loads up with Barry, and we landed at near Orange Walk in Belize at the Carter Ranch. And we switched it over, and I said, you know, there's $20 or $30 million worth of cocaine right here, and somebody's gonna kill us if we keep doing this. Too many eyes on that. So I said, well, now we can go all the way through. And he said, well, and we can refuel in Nicaragua. He couldn't believe it. I said, now you can't get caught in Colombia, and you can't get caught in Nicaragua. And you tell me that you can't be caught in Mena, Arkansas? And I won't say any names, but there was a strong man running that position up there.
I remember, I read a book about that.
About 22 people been killed over talking about it.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, yeah. You don't need to say, I know.
I ain't wanting to get killed.
I read that book.
Yeah. So anyway, he was paying, and I was paying that man $50,000 every time Barry's wheels touched the ground.
Wow.
Plus $1 million to Barry. So he said, well, I can't get caught in Mena, Arkansas. It's impossible. I said, I guess we got a ticket to ride.
Wow.
So he did 30 loads back to back for me.
Wow.
And then I got arrested I chartered a plane, a Faulkner, I forget what it was. And we had a bunch of money, trash money, we called it, $20 bills.
Trash money?
Yeah, absolutely. We didn't want them.
We didn't want, God, how much you didn't want them?
Didn't want them. I wouldn't even take a 5 or 10.
Oh, Oh, man.
Absolutely. The money would fill this room up just like that and more.
How'd you guys count the money? Did you weigh it? Or?
You weighed it. Each bill weighs 1 gram. So $1 million in $1 bill weighs 2,000. It weighs 1,000 kilos, 2,200 pounds.
Wow.
And $1 million in $100 bill weighs 10 kilos, 22 pounds. You can put it in a briefcase, a large briefcase. So that's what we wanted. And when I had to ship the money back to Colombia, they were shipping it back with diplomatic pouches. They all wanted hundreds in the bags. They was leaving me with these 20s, and I'm telling you, they was huge. Now that takes a lot of room. So I chartered this jet, and I'm laying on top of the money. And I got these 2 military pilots on the plane, and we fly down to Grand Cayman Island, and it was a bad thunderstorm over it. And we drug one wing down the runway, sparks flying, trying to get it landed. Then they backed the back trucks back up, the vans back up, no custom, nothing. We unload all that money in duffel bags into those vans and take it back. And of course, the banker steals as much as he can while they're counting it. Can't help it.
Yeah.
So anyhow, I think that was $15 million in small bills.
Wow.
So
as he's counting, he's tucking it.
He's about 20 of them behind the town. They all dressed in white with the ties and the women. And if you sneeze, boy, there's that many bills hit the floor.
Oh,
that
man.
guy stole every bit of that money out of the bank. He closed the bank down after I went to prison and shut it down and thumbed his nose out. Lives in Bakersfield, California.
Wow.
The Reverend Stephen McTaggart. He said, I got 5 years for fooling with him. He said, you fool with me again, I'll put you back in prison. He built a house with a moat around it up there.
What? God, man, that's
so
crazy.
They know I'm a pussycat. I ain't gonna kill them. So.
Wow.
Yeah, surely did.
So literally back then, a lot of these guys who were running, they had a license to steal. It was just like wide open then, huh?
Just do what you can get away with.
Did you ever have any dealings with Manuel Noriega? Because I mean, they went and took him to prison supposedly because he wouldn't give up the cartel money.
That was after me, but
Okay.
I did meet Noriega. I went there. I was fooling with this woman. She was called the Black Widow or the Queen of Cocaine of Bolivia, Sonia de Attila. I'll have to tell you about her. You might like that.
Oh wow, I never heard of her.
Okay, well, in that book I just gave you called the Big White Lie. That's quite a bit about her. Anyway, I was in Colombia in Medellín, at the top of a building, right up in overlooking all glass. And there was a guy in there looked like an old Winston Churchill, and he was drunk and he could speak all kind of languages. Brilliant, just brilliant. And in come this woman sashayed in with a rabbit-proof outfit and the boots on and high Indian cheekbones. She's right pretty. And had 2 little bodyguards with her. She's from Bolivia, Sonia de Attila. And she kisses Fernando on both cheeks 2 or 3 times. And said she was on her way to Miami to buy an airplane. And so I'm there with a lawyer that's introducing me to these people. And so he said, what kind of airplane do you want? One with 2 motors. He said, Roger has one with 2 motors for sale. He didn't know nothing about me.
He just threw you out there.
He's smart. So she says, oh, what kind is it? And I said, Queen Air. Oh, Queen Air? She just loved that. Yeah. And she said, how much is it? And he went, she was loaded with millions. So I give about 3 times the price. And she says, if I bring it down, if I like it, I buy it. I said, well, it costs some gas to bring it down. You give me $5,000 and I have it delivered to Panama. Okay, Miguel, give the man $5,000. Give me $5,000. I called David McMahon. He brought the plane down, and it did look like an airliner with the big landing lights on. It was on the roof there in Panama. So she says, we flew over to one of the islands. That's where the Shah had just died there. You remember the Shah of Iran?
Yeah.
It was right. So it was kind of in the news, a stir there. So we went over there, and boy, so many people got in that plane, I didn't know if it'd take off or not. Her old entourage. And then afterwards she said, okay, I like it. You want your money to come to Santa Cruz, Bolivia. What? All right, load up. So we loaded up and flew to Santa Cruz, Bolivia. And boy, when she landed, the police was there in their limousines and the flags on the front of the car and all the motorcycles beside us, and they took us through town and right on out to the edge of town, and under the big water tank. Said Santa Cruz across it. Which looked like a mausoleum. It looked like something that wasn't a house. It was made of marble, a square building with no charm and a big fence around it. And a bunch of people, 10 or 15 people, 20 people was outside the gate wringing their hands and crying. And she pulled up there with the limousine and got out. What's the matter with you idiots? Your lion is eating the baby.
Oh,
what? And she ran in the house and there's her cougar, pet cougar, eating a baby on the floor. And there's his head and diaper and shit laying there. Blood all over that cougar's face. She grabs, oh, Tommy, Tommy, and she rushes him into another room. She goes out, get away from here. I never want to see your filthy, ugly faces again. Stupid people, you leaving a baby in front of a lion. You blah, blah, blah. She fired everybody at the place. I got my money and left.
God.
Sonia Diatila, she turned into a snitch for the, she's in the witness protection program here now.
Wow, so she took down a lot of people too.
Everybody she could. With me, you can read it there in the book. And it's they telling her, says that Roger Reaves, a pilot, she said, yes, I've been trying to get in touch with him. He said, he's in more files than Noriega.
Wow. Man, that's wild, man. I mean, so you pretty much touched down in every country down there in South America that had anything to do with the drug trade back in those days.
Yeah, well, from Bolivia right on up, Ecuador and Colombia, Venezuela.